I'm okay that if people do leave the museum and they're still a little scared of the Ouija board, I like that. Welcome to the Salem Witch Board Museum, the world's only Ouija board museum. The museum came to be because my obsession with the Ouija board, and really that started after I inherited my grandmother's Ouija board. She passed away in the late 90s, and I had gone online to learn more about it, and I was pretty fascinated to find out that, I thought the Ouija board kind of looked one way, and I was pretty surprised to find out there was literally hundreds of thousands of different boards. And so I became an obsessed collector. About 6 years into collecting, I met a few other collectors. We formed a group called the Talking Board Historical Society, and so that we're a registered nonprofit. We research, preserve, celebrate the history of these boards. Then, of course, being a collector for so long, who doesn't want to put their stuff on display? And so 3 years ago, the museum came about. This is the world's only Ouija board museum. All right, so on the wall next to me is a picture of Helen Peters, and she's not just the woman to ask the board what it wanted to be called, but she's the sister-in-law to the person who patented the Ouija board, a guy named Elijah Bond, and she went to the patent office with him and proved that it worked at the patent office. Her story, sadly, she's written out a history for over 100 years, and the Talking Board Historical Society only uncovered her story just 9 years ago. We found out that her and her husband had died so poor, they were buried in a friend's family plot out in Denver, Colorado. We knew where she was buried, it's just their names, they weren't added to the headstone. So 4 years ago, we raised money, we put a new stone in for her and her husband. We affectionately call her Mother of the Ouija Board, and the cemetery right away added her to the Prominent Women of Denver tour, the October Ghost tours. So her story is slowly getting out there now. A lot of the history that's in here is really the history that we've had to rediscover. We're not telling you something that someone didn't know. We're just telling you something that has been rewritten for a very long time, if not more than 100 years, with some of the stories we're telling. Helen Peters, like I mentioned, the woman who named the board and proved it worked at the patent office, she was written out of history for over 100 years. We only uncovered her story 9 years ago. If you go to the dictionary, you go to the encyclopedia, you look up the Ouija board, it's probably going to tell you that a guy named William Fuld was the inventor. But that's actually not the case. William Fuld certainly manufactured the board for a long time, and it's pretty synonymous with the Ouija board, but he's not the inventor of the board. Really, there is no inventor. But anyways, regardless, if you go, you got to be careful about when you're researching and trying to find out more information about the Ouija board. Anything in print, a lot of it, especially anything older than 10 years, is probably going to be wrong. I think a lot of people visiting the museum are pretty surprised to find out just the depth to the history here. Not just, how it crosses, musical lines in movies, television, but really just the people behind these boards are pretty fascinating. Where this all comes from in spiritualism. These people used the board. They were affected by the death around them from the Civil War, and really going through all these wars where they become very popular during that time. And so I think most people are pretty surprised to find out just how much history is behind this board. So going into any place to find vintage boards for sale, good luck. Here, there's probably 24 at least at any given time for sale. And then some new stuff as well. This board here is from 2020, made in the UK. It was sold at their dollar store called Poundland. Everybody calls Pound Town. And as soon as it hit the shelves, it was huge backlash against the store. They had headlines that read, "Poundland removes Ouija boards as they are condemned as satanic." Other headlines read, "Ghost Hunter warns Poundland's $1 Ouija boards could unleash deadly demons." So they told all their employees, get rid of those boards, throw them away. And I met someone who wasn't very good at his job. He sent a couple here. So this is probably the only place in the United States you will find that board. I think for me, I'm most happy knowing that people leave the museum, that they had a good experience here, and that they got to learn something that they really probably hadn't thought much about before they saw the sign here. While most people leave the museum and I think they feel like, oh wow, I'm not so scared of the Ouija board, to see it through history and see how it was viewed over time, I do like that plenty of people leave, maybe a little bit more fearful of the Ouija board. I like that these boards have a reputation. I love that not everyone likes them. If everyone liked them, they're not so cool. So I'm happy with people, fearing the board. I'm happy with people using the board. I just want them to come back and try to learn a little something that they probably wouldn't have learned or heard about anywhere else. I get asked everything from random questions to what time of day did William Fuld die when he fell off the factory roof that the Ouija board told him to build, all the way to, you know, where these boards come from, and most people being surprised that there's really no inventor of the boards. So really, this place is very unique. I'm here and I love talking to people that have any interest in knowing about the Ouija board. So, you know, if you visit Salem, you're gonna find plenty of things to do, and probably unlike anywhere else in the country, you get those experiences. Here at the museum, you know, come into any museum where you really get access to talking to someone that really is passionate and knowledgeable about the subject they're talking about is not common. And so when I travel, I like to hit those kind of places, those smaller museums where people really, the people you're talking to are the owners, the curators, and invested in the stories behind them, you know, so you're hearing personal stories. So come to Salem, and I think you'll be pretty entertained here.